Ooh, yeah, I haven't uploaded a real video in ages, but here we are back with some serious goodness. I have an announcement for y'all. I have an announcement for you, the wonderful person watching this video. This video is kinda sponsored by Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and Bandai Namco, I guess, because they did something that is so cool. Instead of feeding me the green stuff, Bandai Namco ascended from the heavens and provided me a code for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And to that I say, thank you so much, Bandai, I love you. Will I be a little biased in this video? Sure. I love Dragon Ball. However, I do have a couple criticisms regarding Sparking Zero, but we will go over that later on. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is the newest game in the long-dormant Budokai Tenkaichi franchise. Budokai Tenkaichi franchise. Wow, say that 10 times fast. Budokai Tenkaichi franchise. Budokai Tenkaichi The last game in this franchise was Budokai Tenkaichi 3 all the way back on the PS2 and the Wii. That was like 3 console generations ago. Holy fuck. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of things, you might be asking, how is Sparking Zero? This is a stance in which I stand on business. I'm not a really big fighting game fan. I like games like Smash Bros, Marvel vs. Capcom, and even older Dragon Ball fighting games. But otherwise, 10-foot pole between me and this genre. I always grew up on like shooters and RPGs and shit, so it's like, it's not really something I ever picked up more than other games, but I have always admired them from afar. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is not only the best Dragon Ball game to date, it's my new favorite fighting game and potentially my favorite game of 2024. Sure, games like Metaphor ReFantazio, or however the fuck you pronounce that, haven't come out yet at the time of this recording, but it actually did. I've been playing it for like the last 2 days, and it's also phenomenal. Probably my favorite RPG of the year. And sorry, Space Marine 2, you're goated, but this game is a whole other level of sauce that I just don't think you matched quite as well. Before I continue with the good, let's dabble into the lesser good of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I call it lesser good because I wouldn't call anything about this game outright bad, just a tad questionable in some areas. This game, on a technicality, is the biggest fighting game to ever come out. It has 182 playable characters in the base game, and around 20 or more post-launch via the Season Pass. However, where this game does suffer a little bit is the roster just being a lot of the same characters, but with different versions. Like, for instance, we have just about, if not all, variations of Goku across the 40-year span of Dragon Ball. That alone is like the first 3 rows of the characters to choose from. While most would consider artificially inflating a fighting game roster as a negative, Dragon Ball fighting games like Xenoverse 2 do this, but to a lesser extent, so I can't necessarily knock the game despite it being evidently abundant this time around. Another gripe I have with this game is that the tutorial doesn't tell you fuck all, because here I am with this much time in the game as I have, and I'm still actively flubbing up combos and mechanics. I went into this game having beat Xenoverse 2 twice and Kakarot once, thinking I'd be some fucking master of the universe, but in reality I play more like Rigby in that one episode of Regular Show where all he does is button mash. I know $70 for the base cost of a fighting game to a lot of people is an automatic, but I simply don't mind the price tag. Mostly because I didn't have to pay for it, but if I'm being real, this game has a lot more content to offer than that of a lot of other modern fighting games. Not only does it have the 182 playable characters at launch like I mentioned before, but you have to work for them. You can't use your wallet to buy them like other games. You have to play the game the old-fashioned way, by actually playing the game and not cutting corners. Also, as for the $100 options for this video game, just simply no game should be as much as 6.25 real human hours spent at a job in the state of California. However, in the case of Sparking Zero, you get 20 more playable characters and a treasure trove of goodies if you spend that extra nickel. Enough rambling, let's talk about the real reason you're here. How is it? Perfect. Simply flawless. I fucking hate Great Ape Vegeta. The gameplay is fucking insane. Normally, anime fighters feel as if you're just doing a fighting game with anime characters in it doing their anime gimmicks. But in the case of Sparking Zero, this is the first anime fighter I've played that makes me feel like I'm actually living in the current arc of Dragon Ball. And it's like you're actually having to fight these people as if they were right in front of you. It's so crazy and so fucking surreal. The NPC designs in the story mode do not hold back. Emphasis on the monkey I was just mentioning about 2 minutes ago. There's also alternate story routes within each character story that can be achieved by winning fights in a certain amount of time, or challenges of that sort. As an example, so instead of outright playing the traditional Dragon Ball Z or Super stories, you can work towards alternate instances where you can fight Raditz without Piccolo, as an example, and the story will play out a little bit different. As for the online aspect, I normally don't like online fighting games, even though that is kind of the whole reason why you buy them. I mostly play fighting games for the story. I know, it's like when people play Call of Duty for the story. I'm weird. I was having some weird connectivity issues, but as for the games I was able to play, I was surprised at how actually decent I was at it. Normally I get used as a mop and bucket in online fighters, but I was doing kind of good, so I was giving myself a little bit of a pat on the back. Simply put, I love Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. There is so much to say how unique and great this game is, all while feeling familiar enough to where you could go into it either as a longtime fan of Dragon Ball, or even a new fan finding an entryway into the series. This game is not afraid to kick your ass, which seems to be a huge problem in a lot of different games in recent memory. Nothing coming out in the rest of the year really comes to mind as to whether or not it'll have the natural video game authenticity of being a video game. Most games these days tend to feel like a business model first and a game second, or even worse, like a business model first, an actual scam second, and then a real video game like 69th or some obtuse number in terms of the level of importance just being a game feels like. I really hope Sparking Zero sets a high bar for not only how fighting games are from now on, which by the way, some of these other really big fighters really need to take some fucking notes, but games in general. I've played just about every big game to come out in 2024, and I have to say that Sparking Zero is the most gamey game I've played all year. That and Space Marine 2 and games like Dragon's Dogma 2, but this video isn't about fighting for the Emperor, this is about big buff men screaming and defining aura. Thank you all so much for watching, it really does mean a lot to me. I will try and make longer videos instead of just making shorts. I'll have some new videos coming out here really soon, so stay tuned. Otherwise, take care, enjoy Sparking Zero, and I'll see you all in the next one.